The United States is just weeks away from some major dates. The first one, July 4th. The second one, July 9th. Those are two dates you need to have on your calendar, and I'll explain why in a moment. What you need to keep in mind, though, is that the United States right now has many people extremely concerned because of so much uncertainty. We have uncertainty because of the issues in the Middle East regarding Iran and Israel. We have issues regarding Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, there's tensions everywhere else, China included. But the big one is Canada. What we know is that right now, the Trump administration is trying to finalize the deal for the One Big Beautiful Bill. The deadline for that is July 4th. But regarding Canada, we have a tariff pause, okay, for everybody. And this actually expires on July 9th. This is why some are ready for immediate relief. So I'm going to break this down, but look at this. It says President Trump says he still favors tariffs against Canada as negotiators sit down at the G7. Okay. So what we know right now is Canada is the primary focus for President Trump. Why? They're our neighbor. We need to make sure we are pretty much have a good relationship with them. If we don't, there will be chaos. But here's the thing, and most Americans don't realize this is just weeks away. Okay? July 4th is one date, July 7th is the second. July 4th is the big bill, okay? But something that could be even bigger. The July 4th, that's where we could see some relief. But as far as the talks of the tariffs, we could go from currently flat 10% tariff to potentially something higher. That's the big concern. Okay? Everybody's looking at Canada. I want to show you this though. Why haven't Americans felt the brunt of Trump's tariffs yet? It says businesses are taking advantage of some temporary buffers. One of the buffers is the pause for 90 days, where we don't have a very high tariff on certain countries. Like China, for instance, right? 145%. That's ridiculously high. But some say it's needed. Others say we need to make sure that we are playing fair with Canada, with Mexico, with the EU, right? Those are some big partners. Look at this one right here. It says the EU is prepared to accept a flat 10% U.S. tariff with conditions, according to reports. That's good, but keep in mind that this is still part of the discussions. We don't have any really solid concrete deals yet, but President Trump has said the deals are everywhere, that all these countries were calling in, trying to make a deal. I don't think we've come up with any deals yet, any solid concrete deals. As a result, July 9th could be hit or miss. We could see tariffs jump or they stay flat. So as of right now, are we going to see anything better? Probably not. Flat 10% is going to be the minimum. It could only get worse from here. Keep that in mind. Okay? Keep that in mind. So, are we going to see any additional relief as a result of tariff negotiations? The answer is no. But we could see it go negative. It could get worse. That's the problem that you need to face. Here's where the relief is coming. Okay? I want to show you this. It says right here, okay? And we're going to talk about some other things in a moment. But it says right here, Senate Republicans release revised tax cuts and debt limit bill. This just came out today. Now I want to read a little of this to you. It says right here, Senate Republicans release revised tax and healthcare provisions of President Donald Trump's multi-trillion-dollar signature economic package to set the key step toward meeting their goal of passing the bill before July 4th. It says the new version of the bill expands some tax breaks while raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion instead of $4. That right there could be a sticking point for certain lawmakers. It says it largely hews to the House bill as Senate GOP leaders aim to avoid a protracted negotiation on the substance of the bill that could risk the U.S. defaulting on a payment obligation when Treasury can no longer employ extraordinary debt limit measures as soon as mid-August. That's another date we're going to discuss in a different video because that's concerning. But here's what the deal includes. It says the bill includes a current $10,000 SALT cap deduction as the placeholder while lawmakers continue to negotiate the politically important write-off. The SALT cap is the state and local tax. Okay, it's currently at $10,000. Some say they want to get it up to $40,000. That's a big one. Here's another one. It says the committee draft's biggest change is making permanent 3 business tax breaks that in the House version expire in 2029. They're going to make that permanent. That includes the research and development deduction, a provision for expanding debt interest write-offs, and expensing for new equipment, including most machinery and factories. Okay. It says the interest expensing changes benefits banks, while research-heavy sectors like pharmaceuticals and information technology should benefit from the longer research and development break. But here's another big one. Okay, you're probably thinking, well, what's there for me? Well, here it is. This is the big one for you, okay? If you have children, this is it. The legislation augments the House version of the child tax credit, making permanent a $2,200 per child credit. The House bill called for a $2,500 tax break, but the measure was only temporary. It would actually expire in 2029. It was only going to be here as long as President Trump was in office. Well, he's done in 2029 no matter what. So what they're trying to do right now is go from it was going to be $2,500 for 4 years. Then it was going to revert back to $2,000. Now they want to make it permanent, $2,200 per child, okay, per credit. But we do not know if that is going to be indexed with inflation. Okay, that's one of the things that we'll have to wait and see. Now, here's the reason why this is such a big deal and why the first 10 days of July are huge. First off, the one big beautiful bill that we kind of just went over, the changes to the House bill, that is trying to be passed by July 4th. We're just weeks away from that. Okay? And then the second one is the Liberation Day 2.0. Let me show you this. Okay? Again, that's July 9th. It says the Trump administration is offering 3 different scenarios for how Liberation Day 2.0 may play out. I want to read you those 3 scenarios because, again, this is kind of what we're expecting, right? We know what's going to happen. We know what the best case scenario is and what the worst case scenario is. Look at this. It says it could be a non-event with additional deadline extension in the offing. That is my expectation, is there will be additional deadline extensions. It says it might be a day of celebration of long-promised trade deals that have yet to materialize. Keep in mind, all the trade deals, okay, the pause, everything's at 10%. So why are we going to celebrate when it's the exact same thing? Okay, it's exactly what we've been getting. And this is something that many economists believe. The Trump administration threatened high tariffs, settled for 10%, but to see what the economic change looks like. How does this impact the U.S. economy? Is this a good thing? Or do we see the U.S. economy really struggle as a result? If that's the case, then yes, we could see a pause where no tariffs. But essentially it's not a pause. It's essentially just pushing the inevitable back, where we don't impose tariffs on any country because it's going to hurt the U.S. at this time. I don't see that happening. Then you got the third one. And it could be a day when the hammer comes down and tariffs are simply dictated. I don't see that being the case. Are some countries going to see a higher tariff? Potentially. But again, there's no good news there. It just means we are paying more for those products. So I wanted to leave you with this because, again, there is relief in the works for millions of Americans, but at the same time, we are just weeks away of figuring out the answer as to what the relief really looks like and how much it's going to do for our pocketbooks. And the second one is, what are tariffs going to look like? And how is that going to impact every single person's bank account, but also the U.S. economy? So, as we get more information on that, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.